I never much liked the first generation Audi Q3. I felt it was bland, boring, and basically terrible in every way. So I was excited to test this new car to see if it was any better.
Alright, so this is the second generation Audi Q3, all new for this new generation. And I was kind of interested to drive this car. Actually, I was really interested to drive this car because, to be quite honest with you, I sort of hated the first one. The first generation Q3 was basically a big Golf. It was based on the Mark VI Volkswagen Golf, and it was really not very good as a crossover. It was completely uninteresting to drive. It was really, really boring. It was slow even by the standards of its own time. Its interior felt cheap for its price. It didn't look great. It was just really not a good car overall. I really didn't like it at all. So I was really, really curious to drive this new one. And yes, this new one technically is still based on a Golf because it's based on the MQB chassis, which is Volkswagen Group's, small front-wheel drive transverse engine architecture. However, the MQB chassis is a significant improvement. It's a huge, huge improvement over the old Mark VI Golf chassis. So this Q3, while it technically still shares the same platform as a Golf, it's a much, much better one than before. So when I learned this, I was really excited. I thought, okay, maybe Audi's finally going to nail it with the Q3 because some other brands were killing it in this segment. The BMW X1 is surprisingly good. The Mercedes-Benz GLA class, surprisingly good. So I was really hopeful that this car would be great. Unfortunately, I still don't love it. It's still not a car I really, really like. However, I will say that objectively, as a car, this is a huge, huge step forward over its predecessor.
And it all starts with looks. On the outside, the new Q3 has crisp body lines, sharp creases, and angular styling that makes it seem sporty and modern. The inside is fabulous. Materials are excellent, the design is great, and the technology is top-notch.
The interior is definitely one of the biggest improvements over the previous car for this one, because the interior of this car is really, really good. I mean, in this segment, you don't expect like super premium materials, you don't expect the best technology available, but with the Q3, you do get it. I mean, you get Audi's latest MMI screen, the touch response MMI screen, which is the same one you get in an Audi A8 or Q8, the top of the line Audis. And it's excellent. It really is good for touchscreen. As far as touchscreens go, it's very good. But I still prefer physical controls, sure, but that's sort of, the trend of the industry is moving towards touchscreens. Thank you, Tesla. But as far as touchscreens go, it's excellent. And Audi's virtual cockpit is the best in the business. It's clear, it's crisp, there's a ton of information, but it's super easy to read and it's super easy to use. You can use like little thumb wheels here and buttons to move through it and navigate it. And it's just, for having so much information in one tiny little area, it's remarkably easy to use. Audi has crushed this, and no one comes close. So overall, as a car, like objectively as a car, this is pretty good. I mean, it's actually very good. My problem with it lies in the fact that it is completely, entirely uninteresting to drive. This is one of the most boring cars I have ever driven in my life.
Powering the Audi Q3 is a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that makes 228 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque.
That engine, while it's punchy enough, is really not fun to use at all. It makes this gravelly, grumbly noise as it revs, so it doesn't feel like it wants to rev at all. It's really not a pleasant sound, to be honest with you. And it's slow to kick down, and it's quick enough. It just isn't interesting or enjoyable to use, really. I mean, it's fine to putter around town in, and it actually moves this thing fast enough, especially at highway speed, but God, you just don't want to. Transmission is fine. It's an 8-speed automatic, and it's fine. It does its job well, shifts reasonably quickly and smoothly. No complaints about the transmission. Again, nothing special or out of the ordinary, but just kind of meh. To be honest, I'd be okay with that. This segment isn't known for light your hair on fire performance. However, I do wish it was more enjoyable to actually drive. The steering is completely lifeless and really gluey. It kind of feels, I don't know, it has like this weird gluey response to it. It just isn't engaging to drive at all. The suspension is quite supple. This doesn't have adaptive dampers, this car I'm testing. And it's actually surprisingly soft. It has a relatively small wheel, so a thick sidewall on the tire, which I actually think is great for this car because it makes it really comfortable and really quite supple. However, there's a lot of body roll, so if you try to chuck it in a corner or two, you're gonna get a little nauseous because there's a ton of body roll. It's composed. It's a capable car, but it doesn't do anything with any sort of enthusiasm. It is the most nondescript, boring, uninteresting car I think on the market right now. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if a Camry was more enjoyable to drive than this. And that's disappointing because the car looks pretty good. It looks edgy and modern. The interior is very edgy and modern. I would expect its driving to be that as well. But it seems like they've designed the exterior and the interior to cater to a younger, hipper audience, but they designed the driving dynamics to cater to old ladies because it is just so boring to actually drive. Overall, this is actually a good car for people that want something big enough to fit their family, but also cheap enough that they can afford. But they want something premium, You've done well in life, you've got that first big promotion, and you have 2 small kids or something, maybe 2 young children. So you want something a little more premium, reward yourself for doing well, but at the same time, you need a little bit of space and practicality. This car is perfect for that, as long as you don't care about actually driving. If you just want something that's going to pop you to work and pop to the shops and get your grocery done, this is fine. This will do the grocery run. It'll take kids to school, but it's just going to be really boring the whole way. If you can live with that, if that's fine with you, if you don't care about driving, then this car is perfect.
It may sound like I'm down on the Audi Q3, but that's not entirely true. Sure, the new one is pretty boring to drive, but it's still a massive improvement over the first generation car. It looks great, it has a fantastic interior, it's comfortable, and it's reasonably practical. So if all you want is a premium people mover, well, then the Audi Q3 is tough to beat.